Hey everybody, it's David W. Stock here. It's Relationship Thursday. One of my favorite days of the week. Got the red shirt on, all fired up. Last week I had the best chat with Amanda. And Amanda and I talked about masculinity and femininity, and how some of the things around that are kind of misunderstood. I feel like that's a topic that we really need to get back into one of these days. But today, I'm just going to get Amanda to come right on here again, because we had such a good chat last time. And so we were talking a few days after that, about I don't know if you got that, Amanda. I sent you an invite. But we were talking about a different topic, and so we're going to bring that on today. So the topic we're talking about is, how do you know when to end the relationship? What are the things that you take into consideration, or what are the signs? Like, doesn't there have to be like a kind of a decision process or there has to be like just a this is a no-brainer. When this condition or these conditions are met, then I know. Because what happens is, what I would be afraid of, Amanda, did you get my invite? It does say invited. What I would be afraid of is just ending a relationship and then like 3 months later going, that probably could have worked out. Yeah, to join, Amanda. I sent you in. Well, that's weird. You might have to do it again. I don't know why this is such a thing. God, I thought we had this figured out. If you should be able to send a request to join there, Amanda. What was I saying? So yeah, so my thing would be like, I don't know, like I have these little person icons at the bottom of my screen, and I don't think I've ever sent a request to join the or join the live or whatever. Isn't that how we did it last time? I do not remember. We have to do what we did last time. What did we do last time? Yeah. Yeah, you bet. Okay. But yeah, so like for me, it's just like what if you pull the trigger and end it and it's over, and 3 months later you just have this massive epiphany, like, oh my God, I know exactly what went wrong, and it could have been amazing, it could have been beautiful, and now it's too late. That would be my thing. So how do you know? How do you make that decision? I want to I want to like drop a giant disclaimer that I don't advise uh, people to end relationships or to not end relationships, um, except in cases where there's things like uh, abuse that's happening, whether it's physical or mental. Like if what's happening is not healthy for you, then there's a difference. You have to be able to make that distinction, right? But if it's not healthy, you need to protect yourself. You need to put boundaries around your own personal safety, your own personal health, your own mental health. Those are things that you as an individual must protect uh, at all costs. And if that means that that's the thing that causes the end of the relationship, then so be it. In my estimation, you have to protect your own safety. So that's like a no-brainer to me. I think most people would know that, and yet we all have like that friend that was in that relationship for way too long. And so that's the other thing too, right? What if we stay in the relationship and it doesn't work out anyways? So, hmm. So how do you make that call? And so I asked that question actually in a different group, and I got some answers that ranged from a lot of people said signs, there's signs, and they said what their signs were, but I feel like that's a very personal thing, right? Like like people have their own sort of things that they can and cannot. There you are. I see you, Amanda. Okay, so Amanda's gonna come in and we're gonna hit this topic. I don't think I pushed the right button there, Amanda. There we Hey,
Hi, how are you? Sorry.
I'm good.
Can you hear me okay?
I think we might have that echo again on my end.
Sorry, it's like the first time all over again, right?
Yeah.
This might be a second. Continue. So sorry.
I'm not sure how good the sound is going to be if I keep going, but
Oh, okay.
I was just telling everybody how um, the I don't like regrets, right? So when you're trying to decide how or if you should end the relationship or not, and there's two ways that it can go, right? Like you can end the relationship and then 3 months later regret that you did it, or like have this massive epiphany that suddenly oh my god, I just realized what went wrong in our relationship and now I ended it 3 months ago and now it's over and I can't do anything about it. But the other side of that is if you stay in the relationship and it's just not meant to be, So like there has to be like a process or something, right? Like there has to be something sort of that tells you that it's time. And so I posted in another Facebook group the question, how do you know when it's over? And I got a whole bunch of different answers. A lot of people talked about signs and things like that. Communication breaking down, bad times, good times being less fun, wanting different things from the next 3 years, one on the growth journey, one not. Red flag. One one person said, "Uh-oh, Amanda, where did you go?" Uh, one person said red flag. So there's all those kind of things like that. Hey, you're back.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. You were talking like three times over, so I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Now I
So
hear one of you.
it was echoing on your end then?
I think it was echoing, but it was in different times too.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and so someone else said, I usually decide what's the worst that could happen, and if the consequences are worse than the benefits. So I'll just catch you up, Amanda, because you probably missed some of what I said.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
so like a few days ago when we were talking, and we were talking about how do you know when to end the relationship, and there's kind of like for me, it's the regret thing, right? Like, what if you make the wrong decision? And so I think about like if I end the relationship now, what happens if 3 months from now I just have this giant epiphany and I suddenly realize that what went wrong in the relationship and that we should have stayed together, and then it's 3 months later and we're all, we're apart now and it's too late. Or, but the other side of that is, what if I stay in the relationship and that's the wrong decision? I also put a giant disclaimer at the beginning about um, things like abuse and things like that. And I said, absolutely, with all my heart, I tell people to protect their physical health and their mental health. There's those boundaries have to be there. And if that means that that's going to be the end of the relationship, then kind of so be it. That's what it is. But you have to protect yourself first. But beyond that, like there's so many. It's you have to be able to make that distinction. Uh, that because there's so many relationships that end without that being the thing, right? Um, it's we just annoy each other. That's right.
Definitely. Sure.
So anyways, that kind of catches you up to where we're at, I think. How do you feel
Okay.
about all that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that regret is definitely comes out, or those trains of thoughts. I guess is yeah. Um,
Yeah, and there's patterns too, right? Sometimes we get stuck in our little pattern, and that either causes us to frequently end relationships that probably don't need to be ended, or to remain somewhere where we shouldn't be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, like you said, the main thing is to, protect your physical space. And I would say too, your alignment with yourself. And I know we were talking about radical responsibility, and I think that's where that comes in, like to be just radically responsible for everything that you're feeling in the relationship as well. Because if you're gonna leave blaming him for being annoying, you're just bringing that same step. Like if you didn't do anything to kind of figure out, well, okay, well, why am I finding it annoying? Like what's triggering me? Why am I feeling um, unseen because he didn't text me or whatever, doesn't call me from work or something like that? What needed me is actually calling out for help, right? And and if I'm in control and taking radical responsibility for my alignment with myself, then I need to recognize, okay, well, I need to see myself more, right? Maybe whatever, go on a walk or do some artwork or whatever fills your soul, right? And to recognize that it's not his responsibility, it's yours, and to be able to, you know, I guess tune in with your own body to see what you're feeling, not what you're thinking and what meanings and you're attaching to something and then living out the patterns that you have before, right? Well, I'm just going to leave you because you're not giving me what I want. Okay, well, go ahead and, and watch what happens next time unless you figure it out before you leave.
Yes. Yes. Wow, you touched on a whole bunch of stuff there, but I'm so glad you said those two words because I remember the first time, I can't remember if you messaged it to me or said it to me when we were talking, but the first time I heard those two words together was from you, and I was like, wow, that is an incredible concept because I like to tell people that they can they can impact the relationship by themselves. Like you don't have to have your partner to be on board with everything that you're doing for the relationship. People always say it's 50-50, and it can't be 50-50. 50-50 doesn't work. It has
Mm-hmm.
to be 100-100. And I talk about those concepts a lot, but and then you just came out and said, yeah, it's radical responsibility. And that just takes all of that into and puts it into two words.
Yeah, definitely.
I
I like
love that.
that too.
Yeah.
Oh, good, yeah.
Um, so yeah, so when we're dissatisfied with the relationship, it's usually around something that our partner has said or done. And so many times if you ask, what was the question you just said? How is my or why is that bothering me? Why is it making me feel that way?
Yeah,
And
like when you
uh,
tune in with your body and just ask it, okay, so what do you need? Like what are you telling me right now? Not, blaming or anything. It's just kind of bringing it all back and yeah, asking yourself like what do I need? But also recognizing that, I think you have to start with that foundation of knowing that it's not anybody else's responsibility at all. Even though it's nice when somebody does make that wound feel soothed and stuff like that, but to recognize that you have full control to, like you said, it only takes one person to change the dance. So
yeah, yeah, that's the thing, right? So you want to have a healthy, happy relationship. What are you going to do about it? And because it does not help, even if it so the difference or the distinction is between fault and responsibility, and I encourage people to ignore or to drop out of their vocabulary the word fault, and to even release that concept because it does no good at all. Even so, if it's your partner's fault, all you're going to do if you focus on that is sit on the couch and blame them. And if you think it's your fault, then all you're going to do is sit on the couch and blame yourself. So either way, it doesn't matter. That concept of someone being at fault is not productive. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, it's just not productive. So how are you going to make a change in the relationship is by taking responsibility. And that's why I love that concept, radical responsibility. Radical responsibility. It just puts so much power into that concept. And you know what it made me think of? I follow a guy by the name of Jim Quick. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Jim Quick is the brain coach, and he had a brain injury as a child, and he had learning disabilities and things like that that he had to overcome throughout his life. And he teaches people how to learn because he had to learn how to learn, and he had to relearn how to learn. Anyways, Jim's uh, a, a superhero aficionado, sort of. He's sort of a superhero nerd, and but so he met Stan Lee one time. He tells this story, and he said, when I met Stan Lee, as soon as I said, Stan Lee asked me what my favorite superhero was, and I said Spider-Man, and the next words out of Stan Lee's mouth were, do you know what it is, Amanda?
I don't.
Stan Lee said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Mhm. I should have
And
known
it's
that.
the quote from Peter Parker's Uncle Ben. And so anyways, so Jim had that sort of rolling around in his mind. It was a powerful moment in his life, right? But it just rolled around in his mind for weeks, and then one day it kind of popped out, or popped into his head, or popped out of his mouth backwards, and he said, with great responsibility comes great power. And so there's kind of a two-way, it goes both ways, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely. I gotta write that
so
down.
when you take radical responsibility, it's empowering. It gives you the power to make a change in a relationship, when you have spent your whole life thinking that it takes two and that it's a 50-50 thing, and then you make that sudden shift and you start to see things change. It's quite an impressive kind of thing to witness.
Yeah, definitely. It's transformative for yourself and all the relationships around you. And it's interesting too, because I know we talked about feminine and masculine energy last week, and it's almost like, just in a feminine way, it just almost magically transforms the things that are outside of you once, once you have that knowing that you have that ability to respond to anything. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
mhm.
And so when we were talking last week, the one thing uh, that you said, kind of to answer the question, was it doesn't matter that as much whether or not you end the relationship as whether or not you make the changes in yourself. And that's how that whole radical responsibility conversation sort of came up.
Yeah, definitely. Because otherwise, you're just going to bring your bag of goodies to the next one and continue with your same patterns unless you disrupt the one that you're in. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And
definitely.
that's definitely something that I have learned, even am still learning, is that I've got a couple sore spots too. And so since my last relationship, I've done quite a bit of work on smoothing those over and healing them up and making sure that no one can trigger those again. I'll tell you a little story. Uh, I got into a fight with my girlfriend. So it was near Christmas, and my, I was asking my daughter what she wanted for Christmas, and she was telling me stuff about, she's graduating high school that year. And so she was telling me about, I want a grad jacket, or I want, a thing for grad or whatever. And I was saying to her, okay, so this is the child that always tries not to be an imposition. She's kind of a pleaser, and so she's saying all these things about grad, and I said, okay, honey, but this is Christmas. So you get grad stuff because you graduated. Like all those things are going to happen with or without Christmas. I just want to know what you think you would like for Christmas. And anyways, so in the end, I decided to get her tickets to a rock concert. And it was not a genre that she was interested in at that moment, but I talked to her a little bit about it, and we had some back and forth about it sort of, and I wanted to introduce her to something different, something new. And she agreed to go, and she even started to get excited about it. And then I don't know, after like a month or so after this whole conversation happened, my girlfriend and I were having an argument, and she goes, "You never listen to me, just like you don't listen to your daughter." And I was like, and that I flipped out. So the the thing is, I whether she did this intentionally or not is kind of irrelevant.
Right.
But so I'm a divorced dad, and I have had a lot of pain with my daughter's mom around what kind of a dad I was. And so that's like an ongoing thing that has been going on for 18 years. But beyond that, my own parents were divorced when I was young. And so as a child, I grew up mostly without my dad. And when I became a dad, I had kind of made a decision that I was going to be a good dad. And so I was a little touchy around that whole subject, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I was thinking about that after that's not why we broke up because of that fight, but it turned out to be a much bigger fight than it should have been. And I was thinking about that after we broke up. I was thinking about that fight, and I actually did some meditation on that, and I did some visualizations and things where I healed all those, and uh, it's touchy because um, it was triggering me because I was afraid that there might be some truth to it.
Yeah.
So I had to um, so I did some meditation on it and some visualization, and I went back even to my childhood, to like when I was 4 years old, and I did a lot of internal work around uh, realizing who I was and who I am, and how this whole journey brought me together, and what kind of a dad I actually am. And it gave me a lot of clarity around myself and my own personality. And today, nobody can say that to me and get me upset. Nobody. Like it's not a thing. So
Right.
that's an example of of taking personal responsibility, I guess, when I did it. I forgot where I was going with that. I feel like that was a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Gosh, I was so enthralled with the story. Maybe just that you took that radical responsibility to recognize, yeah, yeah, just to speak to that trigger, and that was awesome that you were able to hang out with it, even though it probably feels uncomfortable, like, oh, that could be true. Well, is it true? I mean, it could be. I'm human. Maybe it is true sometimes. That doesn't mean I'm a bad dad or whatever, like whatever dialogue that you end up having with yourself. But that can be tough to even like talk to. That could be feel like a really dark, room in your castle, so to speak, and you don't want to ever go there. But just the ability that you have to go into there and to be able to stand there and feel it, and you feel it to heal it, right? So, yeah. And then you're,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's kind of two parts to it. You have to be able to recognize it, but you have to. I mean, if you see even that it actually is partly true in some ways, or that there's some kind of event in your past that you're less than proud of or whatever it is, that you have to be able to forgive yourself for that. You have to be able to go back and look at the true situation and see all of the factors that impacted that situation. No one, uh, least of all you yourself, has bad intentions. And so if you've made a mistake in your past, and I've made more than a few, um,
We all
but
have,
it
right?
it's who I was in that moment, and it's not who I am now.
Hmm.
So when we're talking about, um, when
I
people
just
ask
want
me,
to, oh,
yeah,
I
go
just want
ahead.
to say that that's a really, really good point. I think that like who you are now, is different from who you are then as well, right? And I think that going back, like you said, even because sometimes maybe we didn't do anything wrong necessarily, you know, to have a certain pattern. It could have been from childhood within those first 7 years of life, which, you could recognize, okay, so just because, my dad didn't listen to me and that really hurt me and I thought he was a terrible person, that's not me anymore, right? And so I think that's pretty important to recognize, like you just said.
Yeah, that's the one concept that allows me to have that openness and to be able to recognize when I have made mistakes in my past, because otherwise I just do the self-defense mechanism and bury it and say it wasn't my fault or it never happened, one of the
Oh
two.
yeah, totally. And you can feel it trying to like peek its head out all the time. And that's why we're so sensitive around other people, and all these things are just, no, you're supposed to stay under there, stay under, stay under. And it's like lots of little
Yeah,
gremlins. And then you put them in that goodie bag, like I said, and keep carrying them on unless you hang out with it.
yeah, yeah. So that's like, that stuff is like deeply personal work, and it can be difficult at times to be able to do that when you're in a relationship. I know that for me, I don't know if I could have done it while I was in that relationship. I think like, but that was um, like I said, that wasn't the thing. That wasn't the thing in that relationship. That was just a thing that happened.
Hmm.
And, maybe someday I'll get braver and talk about the thing,
Within it. Oh, too funny. Aw.
the real
Um,
thing, someday,
yeah,
someday. But the point is that I did do a lot of work there.
yeah.
But the the original question was, how do you know when to end the relationship? And is there signs, or is there like, and I don't know if, for me, if it's so much of a thing of, you can just write it out in a paragraph and say, if these conditions are true, then it's time to end the relationship. But what I tell people is, and I do this myself too, is I don't like regret. Regret is poison. And the last thing I want to do is 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, be like, man, I'm not sure if I made the right decision. Regardless of which decision I made, I don't want to regret it later.
And I think
So,
when you're so aligned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, and I think if you're so aligned and in tune with how you're feeling, like um, how you're really feeling, not what you're thinking about that's causing you to feel a certain way, if that makes sense. I think when you can, feel into it, then you're able to kind of recognize, okay, this is how it feels, regardless of the conditions, if that makes sense. Like, of course, ideally, it'd be great to leave when you love the person, right? Like, okay, I can walk away from you and still see you as a wonderful, human that you truly are. Of course, that doesn't always happen, but to recognize how if you're in alignment with how you're feeling, I think that can take away some of the regret, right? Like, because then like there's a feeling, and it's not just thinking about it with all those other meanings attached to it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, definitely you have, but people never do. We operate out of fear almost for our whole lives. That I don't think people realize how deeply ingrained the fear mechanisms are in our minds, and we should be grateful for them because there's no way that the human species could have survived 2 million years without it. It's
Yeah.
just that it's it hasn't evolved with the way that our lifestyles have evolved over the last 10,000 years with civilization, and it's not something that uh, it's not that it's not necessary. It's just that it's designed for a different set of circumstances than we experience now.
Oh, yeah.
So an appropriate thing to be afraid of, um, the way that our fear mechanisms are designed would be things like, I don't know, rock slides, earthquakes, volcanoes, saber-toothed tigers, things that are gonna end your life if you don't
Yeah,
do
rejection from the tribe, right? All of that stuff.
that too, for sure, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, rejection from the tribe is fatal, right?
Yeah,
Can be, right?
definitely.
But so fight, flight, or freeze, one of the three, and we still do it, even when we're in a situation that's really not threatening at all. Um, but where I was going with that was, um, and how what my little trick is to avoid the regret of having made the decision is, first of all, there's a decision that has to be made. You can't spend your life going, I don't know if I should or I don't know if I shouldn't. You can't go on like that for a long time, uh, in a relationship. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So what I do is I feel like if I'm asking the question, I must still be in the relationship. So when the question comes up, then my response is to put both feet in and to pour my heart and my but not with no conditions, but to pour my heart and my soul into the relationship. And I advise people, if you think that there's, or if you're just not sure if the relationship can work, then do this little test, but put a time limit on it. And I say, don't, not a week, not a week. That's bullshit. Come on, give it some time, but give it 3 months. If you're in a long-term relationship, what's 3 months? So give it 3 months. Pour your heart and your soul into the relationship and into your partner. Give them everything you've got. Keep, like I said, those boundaries around your own personal health and your own personal, mental health, but give everything that you have to give to your partner and to the relationship, and find out, put some effort in, find out what they need, find out what they want, find out what's going to make them happy, and you will see changes in your relationship 98% of the time. I made that statistic up completely, but
It works. It works.
I have, I have no science to back that up, but I believe it.
Perfect.
98% of the time, you're going to see a change, and you can do anything for 90 days. And at the end of the 90 days, you can do just a real quick evaluation, um, heart centered if possible. If you can release all the fears and all the other things that you have, and just really have a good understanding of who you are, who they are, and how or what is meant to happen next, it can become really clear, um, in a short
Definitely.
period of time. And but you have to put that evaluation aside for the 90 days. You have to say that, just put it out of your mind. All that's happening for 90 days is the relationship.
I would
Everything I can
also
do.
I would also just put in the little disclaimer too that if you're doing this for 90 days, there's not a expectation that you're going to change the other person, right? It's just for to shift the relationship, and you're showing up, bringing your four-course meal to the dinner party, right, or whatever, and you're fully aligned. So just to, because I know, and I don't know about this statistic either, but I feel like mostly women will come up with like, well, I'll do this and see if he'll change, or so there's always like an
Yes,
expectation. Well,
yes.
I've been doing this and he didn't change. Well, he's not supposed to, right? Like so, just to throw that
Yeah,
in.
that is actually super important. Yeah, people don't change. They do not change when they don't want to.
Right.
So you don't get to decide that they can or that they should. But yeah, so the thing is to avoid the regret. That's all it is. So I don't know what to do. So I'm going to put the decision off for 90 days, but I'm going to give everything that I have to the relationship. Everything. You know what happens when you end a relationship with someone? You know what people always say? I did everything.
Oh, right, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What'd you do? You paid
Yeah.
attention to everything that annoyed you, right? You.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I did everything. Okay. How about if you actually do everything? And this way, when the relationship ends, you won't have to go around to your friends saying, I did everything. Because when people say that, like that, there's a place where that's coming from. And deep down inside, they know that there's something that they missed. There's something
Mhm.
that they didn't get to. And I completely empathize with people who get, frustrated with their partner and those kinds of things. But um, take some time and put some energy and some effort into it. All the energy that you can muster, and pour it into your relationship. Learn about the
Mhm.
five love languages. I got to tell you, the five love languages is a really powerful concept. And if you and your partner don't have the exact same love languages in order, um, you're going to have some times when things don't feel like they're meshing, when you feel like you're pouring energy in and it's going nowhere. um, it might be just that you're doing it the wrong way, that you're not speaking their language, and don't expect them to speak yours either. If the two
Yeah.
of you are going to have that love communication, you have to figure out what theirs is and speak it. That's the only way that that can happen. That's radical responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. And one more thing, going back to like pouring everything into the relationship, sometimes that looks like pouring into yourself as well. So just to make sure like you are feeling away and you need some attention, then go for a walk by yourself. Don't be, come with me, I need you to come with me, right? Just go by yourself and fill up your damn cup. And so sometimes it looks like that too. And maybe it looks like that for a weekend where you need to go away, or um, rent yourself a nice Airbnb or something and fill up your cup. Sometimes it looks like that, and that could be filling up the relationship as well.
Yeah, very much
Mhm.
so. Very much so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. If you, um, whatever you need, whatever you need to be 110% in the relationship.
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
if you want a happy, healthy relationship, like make sure you check in with yourself. Well, am I happy and healthy? Because those ingredients, like you were saying, um, that's what's going to make up the relationship. So,
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. That was a
mhm.
great chat. I always have such a great time when we chat.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. So I hope I don't know if we totally unpacked the whole thing. Um, Gosh, I feel like we could go back to that masculinity and femininity thing too again. Someday we will, I'm
Yeah,
sure. I'm pretty
yeah.
sure that's going to be a thing. But if you guys have any thoughts about this topic of how do you know when to end the relationship, I would love to hear what you all have to say in the comments. Um, and anything else. I just love to hear it all. So drop us a like too and let us know you're watching too. So that's always fun. And yeah, I think we're going to come back next Thursday, Amanda.
Sounds good.
All right.
Cool. All right. Bye.
You have a good day now.
You too.
Thanks.